pastor as he comes to bring the word today.
Good job. Good job. Wow. Wow. A lady announced at work that she was going to go on a do or die diet. And I mean, she told everybody. The next day she shows up with a big sack of donuts. They said, "What happened to the do or die diet?" She said, "It's God's will." She said, "I drove by the bakery and I could smell the donuts. And I said, God, if you want me to stop and get some donuts, let there be a parking place right in front of the door." And she said, sure enough, after the 7th time around the block, the sermon today is Get Wisdom. Knowledge is what you know. Wisdom is knowing what to do with what you know. I know some smart people that do not have wisdom enough to brush their teeth. I mean, they have no practical application to what they know already. Now, Solomon said, get wisdom with all of your ability. Do everything to get understanding. Understanding is wisdom. It's knowing what to do with what you already know. I want you to be the best that you can be for God, for yourself, and your family. God gave you the ability to think, to reason, to solve problems. And in my 50-something years old plus, 50 years plus of ministry, I have witnessed a lot of miracles. Now, a miracle is an unusual, unexplainable happening. I've seen poor people become rich. I've seen sick people that the doctors gave up on and said there was nothing more they could do. I've seen them get well and live healthy lives. I have seen defeated, discouraged, beaten people have a breakthrough in their life and become successful and have a life of victorious living for years. Now, Solomon, the wisest man, supposed to be the wisest man who ever lived. Solomon, David's son, took over when David died. He was a young man. And God came to him and said, Solomon, I'm going to give you a choice. You can have victory over your enemies. You can have wealth beyond compare. Or you can have health and long life. Which one do you choose? Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. Solomon said, I'll take door number 4. Give me wisdom. And God said, because you asked for wisdom, I'm going to give you victory over your enemies. I'm going to give you wealth beyond compare. And I'm going to give you long life and health. And I'm going to give you wisdom to know how to rule my people. Now, this wise man, there were 2 women. One of them had a child, a baby, and it died right after birth. Another woman had a baby, and the woman whose baby died, she went a little bit insane, and she claimed that the other woman's baby was hers. And they got fighting over this baby, who this baby belonged to. They came before Solomon. And Solomon listened to them arguing about both claiming that the baby was theirs. And Solomon said, I know what let's do. Let's cut the baby in half and give each one of you half a baby. And the mother said, no, no, I want my baby to live. Let her have it. Solomon said, that's the mother. That was showing his wisdom. And this man, he said, with all of thy getting, get wisdom. Now, wisdom doesn't come by osmosis. It doesn't jump out of your computer, your telephone, and get into your brain. Doesn't jump off the television and get into your brain. There must be something important about wisdom and making the effort to get wisdom that Solomon would say, wisdom is the principal thing. Now that's Proverbs, if you want to look it up, Proverbs 4:7. He said, wisdom is the principal thing. It's the number one thing in your life. It's the most important thing you will ever do. So with all of your getting, get wisdom. Amen. People wanting all kinds of things. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're fed up with you being in your psychological prison, I hope you heard that one. If you're not happy with your past and you want something better for your future, then I'm going to say, remember this. A winner is just a loser who got mad at losing. I'm going to give you several opportunities to get mad at me today. But remember, there's a whole bunch of demons right outside the door. They can't come in here. And if you get mad at me, you get to take one of them home with you. So you be careful about getting mad at me. Are you okay so far? You are special. You're a winner. People say, well, I never won anything. That's a lie. Did you know that during an act of very emotional commitment to each other, an act of love, your mother released one egg, and your father released several million little activators, and they were in a race. You were in a race with several million others wanting to fertilize that egg, and you won. You won that race. And God said, I knew you while you were still in your mother's womb. He knew which one of those several million would win the race. And that was you. You're unique. You're special. You stand alone. Did you realize how unique you are? There is not one person on this planet that has a thumbprint that will match yours. Of all of the people, there's never been another thumbprint like yours. You are so special. And the only person who can determine your future and your destiny is you. Now, experts say, and I doubted this when I first discovered it, So I had to do a lot of research to make sure that this statement was true. But experts say 80% of everything good on this planet is owned by 20% of the people. Now what that means is 1 out of every 5 owns 4/5 of everything that's good on this planet. How many would like to know the secret to being that one? Just think. If all of the wealth of this nation was divided equally among all the people, it would take less than 5 years, and 80% of the people would have very little, and 20% would own most of the wealth on the planet. Let me give it to you one more way. I just want to be sure you understand it. If we all had to start over and we were all given an equal number of marbles, 1 person in 5 would own 4 of those 5 marbles in less than 5 years. What makes 1 in 5 people different? That they know how to get everything good that they want in life. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios, and you determine which one fits you the best. Scenario number 1, lives in an average house, drives an average car, has a small savings account. He always wants to play it safe, never take a chance. He doesn't like his job, but it does pay him a decent wage, makes a decent living, and it doesn't demand too much. He goes to bed at the same time every night, gets up at the same time every morning, eats the same breakfast, grunts the same grunts, gripes the same gripes, drives the same route to work, does the same work every day, goes home the same way he drove to work. And 80% of the people that you know fall into that same moldy mold. Now don't get mad at me yet. This average guy doesn't really like his neighbors, but he tolerates them. Let's go to scenario number 2. He realizes that life is too short to be small. He's not afraid to take a risk. He likes his neighbors, but he really doesn't care what they think. He's more concerned about what he thinks, because he knows he is the captain of his ship. He is the master of his destiny. He drives the kind of car he wants to drive, enjoys life. He's learned the secret. Life is too short to be little and play it safe. He looks forward to the future, not so he can sit on the porch in the sunshine in a rocking chair and drink prune juice. He's not concerned about how much money somebody else makes. He's more concerned about how much money he makes. He's not interested in gossip. He doesn't have time for it. He's not interested in somebody else's sex life. He's more interested in his own sex life. 2 philosophies of life, 2 scenarios. Which one is you? Don't get mad at me yet. You'll have another chance. I want to give you 7 things that explains why 4 out of 5 people live their lives, spin their wheels, end up in the land of nowhere, They ride the merry-go-round of life and never reach for the brass ring. The tragedy is, on the merry-go-round, you always get off the same place you got on. Number 1, 7 things. They let other people run their life. They surrender their life to the dictates of the also-rans, the bench warmers, the second stringers. And usually the people who run their lives, people that they love and people that he loves. They love you, you love them. They're misguided husbands, domineering wives, interfering relatives. You don't have any of those. Let me ask you, who's in charge of your life? When it's time for you to make a decision about what you need to do, do you make that choice based on what other people think you ought to do, or because of what you think you ought to do? So number 1 of the 7 things, letting other people run your life. Number 2, do you blame other people, or do you accept responsibility for your own mistakes and your own failures? Napoleon met with his generals, and they had lost a battle. And one of the generals said, "But we cannot control the circumstances that happen on the battlefield." And Napoleon said, "Circumstances? I control the circumstances that affects my life." Who controls the circumstances of your life? It's easy, it's always easy to blame someone else for your own failures. Number 3, poor self-image. Without exception, the failures in life don't think very highly of themselves. They just don't like themselves very much. I've found that people make 2 big mistakes when it comes to intelligence. They seem to exaggerate the intelligence of other people, and they underestimate their own intelligence. They think everybody else is smarter than they are. Number 4, they allow the fear of people and the fear of failure to dominate their lives. When fear rules your life, you will never even try. You just give up. Fear is behind all failure. You with me so far? Number 5, failure to set goals. Few people bother to write down what they want to accomplish with their life. Well, I'm too old. How old is too old? What time have you got left? A year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years? You need to plan what you're going to do with that time. I've already said this, but I'm going to say it again. Most people spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do planning what they're going to do with their life. What a shame. Number 6, and this is not through, I'm still on the introduction. Number 6, they've never learned that you have to give if you want to get. They only care about themselves. I'm talking about the failures now. They care about themselves, what's in it for me. They're Instead of asking, what can I do to help other people become what they want to become? That's why I keep telling you, you need to have something to do in God's house for God's people. Amen. You need to have something to do. That way you have a responsibility. I have to be there. And I can't help but think of Joan Lawson. Joan Lawson ran that camera right over there for years. And she told her family, sick or not, she said, I'm going to church. We're going to church because I have to run that camera. Mack and God is depending on me to be there. And she showed up, and when she got so sick, on one heart problem after another one in the hospital, the thing that disturbed her the most was that she couldn't be sitting on that camera. I love people who have responsibility and accept it. Successful people know you have to learn to give if you want to get. Do you think God would not honor you for doing something for the people that He died for? Wow. Whoever you are, if you work in the nursery children's church, you're an usher, you're a greeter at the door, you just get up and roam around and shake hands with people and tell them you're glad they're here. If you're going to have friends, you got to show yourself friendly. Responsibility. Number 7. Failures in life are always thinking defeat instead of victory. Failure to believe that you can have a breakthrough. You can win. You can be a success. Listen, church. What is the bottom line when it comes to having a breakthrough and being a success in your life? It's one word, faith. Faith in God, in yourself, and in fellow man. Faith. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Have you placed your faith in God and asked Him to give you guidance and direction and to order your steps? Have you really? You know, you can't drive a parked car. You can sit there and pretend you're going on a long trip, but you're not driving if you're not going anywhere. God cannot order your steps if you're not stepping. I want you to be the best that you can be. I can't do it for you. I want you to want everything that God has for you. Now I want to ask you a question. I want you to answer this question within 3 seconds. Now I've taught some of you this already. But a baby was born a few minutes ago. Before I count to 3, you tell me what you think the life expectancy of that baby is in days. How many days does that baby have to live? 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. In your own mind, how many days is that baby going to live? Now, I have done this, and the average person automatically says 100,000 days. The answer is, if you live to be 70 years old, you have a total of 25,500 days. That's why so many people have so little respect for life, because they think their life is never really going to end. If you were born 100,000 days ago, you would have been born about 80 years before George Washington was elected president. If you were born 100,000 days ago, you'd be 280 years old today. You've only got 25,500 days. From the day you were born, that's how many days you have to take charge of your life and make it count for something. Life is too short to be little. Now, Jim, I'm going to embarrass you. Just go ahead and hide your face. Jim Lawrence really led the first person to Christ. He's what? How old are you, Jim?
81.
81 years old. About 10 years ago, he came to the sheep shed and has been here ever since. And everybody that knows him knows what a change has happened in his life. But God gave him a chance to lead someone to the Lord the other day. Jim, love you, buddy. About 6,000 Americans die every day. Death is just as much part of God's plan as his birth. What is sad is 6,000 people will die today here in America. And most of the people who will die today never really enjoyed the trip. Most of them never knew what it was like to know the God of heaven who loved them enough to give his son to die for them so they could have eternal life with him forever. They never knew that this same God said, "Beloved, I wish above all else that you would prosper." That's financial, material prosperity. That you would prosper and be in health. That is physical, healthy body, mind, even as your soul prospers. He took care. He wanted his desire that all three areas of your life, your body, your mind, and your soul, would be prosperous in everything you do. That's his desire for you.